Hi everyone, thank you for stopping by. My name is Glory. So today I decided that I'm going to share the top 5 books that I read in 2022 and how I managed to read 50 books this year, which is a really big achievement for me because I think I only recently started reading a lot more. So you can also aim to read a bit more. Now, the number of books that you read in a year, I believe, doesn't really matter because it's about the knowledge that you retain in your head and how you can actually use the knowledge in the book and implement it into your life. So first, let's talk about my top 5 books I read this year, and keep in mind that these books don't necessarily align with the year 2022, but it's just books I've read this year that I think are really helpful to me in this particular pivotal point in my journey, and hopefully they'll inspire you too. Number 1, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So this book completely changed my mindset on money in general and personal finance and how people of different wealth see money and control their money. There's also just so many interesting thoughts on trading time for money and working for money versus letting money work for me. A lot of interesting points to change my mindset on how I view my current job as well. And if you're into finances and money, check this book out. I think I got into this because I recently started working and thinking a lot about money more. So I really enjoyed reading this, and that kind of put me down into this whole rabbit hole with the second and third book of Robert Kiyosaki. I believe it's Cash Flow Quadrant and also Guide to Investing. And I just thought it was really interesting to read all of these things because I felt like just in general, we don't receive a lot of education on money and finances. And I think it's really important to actually be really money savvy and learn about all these things at an early age to build that foundation for yourself in the future. So I really enjoyed reading this book, and I just can't recommend it more. And I know this is not a 2022 book. It's like ages ago, but there's a reason it's the #1 personal finance book. So go check it out if you're interested. Number 2, This is Vegan Propaganda by Ed Winters, or also known as Earthling Ed. So if you know me and you've watched other videos on this channel, I had to throw in a vegan book in the mix. Earthling Ed is really my idol on vegan activism and just his whole persona in general about how he approached civil discussions with topics such as veganism that can be really touchy. And this is not me kind of like preaching veganism. Obviously, I would like to encourage people to learn more about the topic of veganism and why it is a rising movement right now. But I'm not going to preach in this video, but I'm trying to see from it obviously more from a more general standpoint on how you want to argue for a cause that you believe is really important. In this case, veganism is an example. And just the way he does it is just already really admirable. So obviously, talking about the book is a summary of really detailed arguments and explanations with obviously tons of sources and references at the back of the book to explain why adopting a vegan diet or a vegan lifestyle is so important, especially in this age now more than ever. If you are veg curious or vegan curious, definitely check out this book, and I promise you it will be a worthwhile read. And just go in with an open mind, and I think it will be really good. Number 3, Factfulness by Anna Rosling Ronand. I'm so sorry. Hans Rosling and Ola Rosling. Nowadays, people are always quite gloomy about the world trajectory, and how we all think that the world is progressively getting worse in terms of politics and socio-economic factors. But Factfulness gives us a fresh outlook on how the world has actually progressed throughout the years and presenting how we've actually gotten better as a civilization, and also in the future and where we're heading. The general idea of the book is that we should not neglect the amount of progress that we've made as a species to lift each other from poverty and other world issues, but also to see how we can develop and move forward with an unskewed world-centric view. I think this book is so good because it's not the normal doom and gloom that you see a lot of books saying, wow, the world is gonna like go to ruins and all that. It's encouraging people to be more positive about the current world view right now. And they also provide lots of really interesting bubble diagrams, graphs, photographs to kind of like prove their point. And the book is just really engaging because they have all these like quizzes that you can engage in. And it's just so interesting to see how skewed our worldview is. So I think it's really important for people to read this book. And it was actually so sad that the author has passed away, and this is kind of like the legacy that he wants to leave behind. So definitely go check that out if you're interested about the world as a whole, which we should all be. Number 4, A Promised Land by Barack Obama. So I never thought that I would be the type of person to read Obama's memoir, but I was really intrigued. And I was really glad that I read it because I feel like as a normal citizen living in this world, we don't really get to see the behind the scenes of what happens at a government level and perhaps a president's day-to-day duties. So it was really refreshing to actually hear Obama talk about his journey and thoughts throughout his time in office and seeing all the challenges that he has faced along the way, like facing all of these dilemmas where it seems like people were just unhappy with him no matter what choice he made, and kind of applying that kind of determination that he had to our lives now and seeing how we can make a difference by just engaging with people in our communities and all that. And it's just really nice, and you feel like it's really personal and you feel like you're just, a companion with him on his journey. And I really liked the parts where he talked about like political decisions, but also just being a husband and a father to his family and how he manages to balance all that in his life. And I don't know, just struggles of being a normal human being, I suppose. And it was really refreshing. Number 5. Becoming by Michelle Obama. So since I read A Promised Land, I had to read Becoming by Michelle Obama. So she talks about her journey in supporting Barack, his run for office, and the difficulties and obstacles that she has to face being a wife and a mother, and obviously just being a colored woman in general, and how she can integrate herself into life in the White House as a valuable first lady to drive changes, which I found just really inspiring, obviously being a person of color, and also just how she views change as a really slow process, but how we still have to stand up and take action for what's right. And I just found her to be such a strong woman, and it's just really nice. Again, it's like reading, just being in a companion and listening to someone talk about their lives and their professional lives and how she goes through all these obstacles, and it was just really inspiring. So I have some commendations or runner-ups, whatever you like to call it, and this book is called Whole Again, which talks about abusive and toxic relationships. So I've actually been in a toxic and an emotionally abusive relationship in the past, which could be a video topic in the future, but who knows. And the book really helped me tremendously in coming to terms with it and feeling like I'm not alone, because a lot of the times when people are trapped in these toxic relationships, it can always feel like no one in our close circles actually understands what's happening. And when you have a book like this kind of outlining the things that you're going through, I just felt really heard and understood, and it really helped me process all these emotions and things that happened in my past. And I was like, oh, that's what happened. Oh, this is why it's like this. And I think it was just really useful. It's kind of like the ultimate hug in a book if you've went through similar trauma like this, or if you know someone who's going through a hard time and you want to understand the situation a bit better, you can read this book and, also tell them about it and help them if it's someone that you really love and care about. Also, if you're just really interested in the psychology side of relationships, or you're going through a really tough time, I really highly recommend this book, and I hope that it will help you like the way it helped me. So now let's move on to the portion of reading more books. And I hope these tips are practical enough for you to integrate in your life immediately. Number 1. Set a timer to read, even if it's for 15 minutes. I always try to find a dedicated time to read every day. So for example, for me, this would be breakfast time or lunchtime or meal times in general. And it's actually such a great time for me because I really enjoy just reading while I'm munching away on my breakfast. I know this might not be that good for people who practice mindful eating, but I really enjoy doing this activity. You could swap scrolling on your phone for reading during break times like some people do, or like some people do, read to wind down before you go to bed. Just make this a habit and you'll start to read more books. Even if you read a few pages, it is still better than reading 0 pages, because 0 compound is still 0, but if you read a few pages every day, you actually get somewhere, and that compounds into something. Number 2, Kindle. So Kindle really changed my life for the better because I really hate reading words on a bright screen, and Kindle just gave me the option of being able to read on a non-blue light screen. So I feel snugly reading it on my bed. It's also light. I don't have to physically carry tons of books wherever I go. And also, as a minimalist, I don't need to have so many books in my room that it has a lot of clutter, as everything is just in my Kindle. Sometimes I can even find some PDFs that I want to read, and I'll just send it to my Kindle and read it there. Number 3, find books you're generally interested in. Don't just read what everyone thinks is good and force yourself to read it. This actually didn't serve me well because there was a time where I just did not read because I felt like all the books that people recommended to me, I just didn't like them. So I just thought, oh, something is wrong with me. I'll just probably not read because all the bestsellers are stuff that I don't want to read. And it's also not a must to finish a book that you started. And it's not like you have to finish reading a book completely to say that you've read it. Take what you need and leave what you don't need. Keep looking for books that you're generally interested in, and you don't have to care about what other people think is a good book or not. Then it just won't become a chore for you, and you'll actually want to keep going. Number 4, take notes. So when I'm reading nonfiction books, which is 95% of the time because I just generally find nonfiction books to be more productive or useful for me specifically, sometimes I feel the need to take notes in either my personal journal or on a Notion template, which full credits go to Ali Abdal with a video that I'll link below. And this really just helps me retain information better, especially if I want to go back and look at a particular point from that specific book and I don't actually own the physical book itself. However, if this seems like too much friction for you to actually get started on reading, then don't do it unless you feel the urge to really write notes, because it'll help you remember what you have to read. So just do what you feel like doing, and these habits can like build up over time. Like I feel like don't bite off more than you can chew with taking notes. Just do what feels comfortable for you at the time. And because the most important thing is just to reduce the most amount of friction you have between not reading and actually reading. So just do what feels right for you. Number 5, audiobooks while doing mindless tasks. So because I was an architecture student in university, so I spent a lot of my time drawing, and sometimes these drawing tasks can be a really mindless activity, and it gets a bit repetitive sometimes. So to make my use of time more effective and productive, I listen to audiobooks during this time when I'm drawing, which means that I can absorb information while I'm doing something really mindless. And this has served me really well in learning information through audio form, like podcasts as well. I know that not every subject or profession can allow you to do this, but say if you're in a kitchen like chopping vegetables to cook a meal, or if you're just like folding laundry, or if you're like commuting somewhere like on the bus, you can definitely just like put up an audiobook or a podcast in the background and just listen to it while you're doing these mindless tasks. I hope that you liked my book list and that the tips on reading more were really helpful. Let me know if you have any more tips, or if any of the books in my recommendation has sparked some other recommendations that you think link to these type of themes, and you can write them in the comments below and I'll be really happy to read them and add them to my book list. I just find reading to be such a nice activity to do because it's like having a tutor right next to you and you're just engaging in a conversation with the author, and in the meantime you also learn more and just become a better individual. So actually I think reading is one of the best hobbies that you can have because it's such low cost, but you learn to be a better person. So I love reading, and I hope in the future I can release more book review videos that are maybe more in depth, and hopefully that's something that you're also going to be interested in. So let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd like to see. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!